The day everything changed for me started like any other day, until I ended up in a really strange and tough situation, having to do things I never thought I would just to stay okay. It was a regular Tuesday. When I got up in the morning, I had no clue about what was coming. My alarm woke me up at 7 a.m. sharp. I got out of bed, brushed my teeth, took a shower, got dressed, had breakfast, and caught the bus to work. The workday was kinda boring, with lots of numbers, calls for help, annoying meetings, and chatting during lunch. It was only when I left work that I felt something weird. Right after I walked out, I got this super cold feeling, like someone stepped on my grave. I didn't know how, but a part of me knew something really important had changed. It felt like something bad reached inside me and took away a piece of my soul, and I couldn't do anything about it. Two things happened on my way home that turned out to be really important. First, I met a homeless man on the sidewalk near the bus stop. He looked really sad, wrapped up in lots of clothes to stay warm, his white beard messy as he looked at me with tired eyes. He held up a jar and asked, "Can you spare some change, sir?" I felt sorry for him, so I stopped and took some random coins from my pocket and threw them into his jar. "God bless you, sir," he said, smiling and showing yellow, stained teeth. "No problem," I said awkwardly before moving on. I thought that giving some money to the homeless man made a difference, but deep down, I knew it didn't really help much. Then, something not so nice happened. I was waiting in the cold at the broken bus stop, looking across the street at the taxi stand. Three tough-looking guys were hanging out their young men with tattoos and mean eyes. They laughed, smoked, and spit, trying to show off. I saw them every day on my way home. I didn't know their names, so I called them Mo, Larry, and Shemp after the Three Stooges. I never made fun of them because I knew they were involved in bad stuff: drugs, prostitution, and other illegal things. These guys acted like they owned the neighborhood, and I really didn't like them. Usually, I ignored them to avoid any trouble. But this time, I couldn't control my feelings, and I looked at them with disapproval. Bad move. Mo noticed me staring and got aggressive, yelling at me, "Hey, jerk, you got a problem." I realized I shouldn't have drawn attention to myself. I'm not good at dealing with fights, so I tried to ignore Mo and lowered my head, but he didn't stop. "I'm talking to you," he swore, getting closer. I saw the other two guys giving me mean looks, and I knew I was in trouble. Things could have turned violent, but luckily, my bus arrived just in time. I hopped on, paid the fare, and took a seat. I glanced out the window, and the three guys were laughing at me. Mo shouted a final insult. "Runaway loser." I felt weak and embarrassed, keeping my head down after that unfriendly encounter. But as you might have guessed, that's when my day got really strange. I first realized something was off when I tried to open the front door of my building with my key fob. I pressed it 5 or 6 times, but it didn't work. I was puzzled, frowning at my fob. Luckily, a neighbor came by and used their fob to let me in. I thanked them and thought maybe my fob's batteries needed changing. Again, my fob didn't work, and when I tried my key, it didn't fit. I stared at the door number, making sure it was my apartment. I was tired and tried to figure out what was going on. At first, I wondered if my landlord kicked me out and changed the locks, but I paid my rent on time, and we never had any issues, so that didn't make sense. While I was thinking about this, I heard movement inside my apartment, and someone started opening the door. The person kept it latched, but opened it enough for me to see inside. It was me. The man on the other side was my double, with my eyes, hair, and face. Almost everything about him was just like me. It was like looking into a mirror. I couldn't find words, so my double spoke first. I was amazed he seemed so calm in this strange situation. I managed to stammer out, Who? Who are you? My double smiled a little and said, My name is Paul Young, and this is my apartment. I couldn't believe it. I'm Paul Young, I exclaimed, and this is my apartment. You're mistaken, my double calmly replied. Now you should leave. I lost my temper, shaking my head, and spat out. This is nonsense. I don't know who you are, but I'm calling the cops if you don't let me in. My double surprised me by bursting into laughter. Sure, go ahead and call the police. Knock yourself out, buddy. He closed the apartment door, leaving me alone in the cold hallway. The cops came about 20 minutes later. I noticed the way they looked at me and exchanged glances, probably thinking I was crazy. I knew my story didn't make much sense, but I needed them to believe me. Eventually, I convinced the cops to go upstairs to my apartment and confront the imposter. I had to wait in the corridor with one of the officers, while his partner talked to the person who took over my home. My anger grew as I watched my double chatting pleasantly with the policeman at the door and inviting him inside. The person living at this address is Mr. Paul Young. He has provided the necessary documents to prove his identity, he said firmly. What? I exclaimed in total shock. You must be kidding. I'm Paul Young. This guy has stolen my identity. The cop asked cynically, Can you provide evidence to back up your claim? Of course, I replied, reaching for my wallet. But when I did, I got the surprise of my life. I took out what should have been my driver's license, only to find it was a blank piece of plastic, with my name, details, and photo all erased. I started to panic as I pulled my wallet apart, withdrawing bank cards, my work pass, and even my gym membership. But everything was wiped out, my entire identity erased, as if by magic. I looked up at the officers in astonishment, not knowing how to explain. I don't understand, I stuttered nervously. This doesn't make any sense. The senior officer suddenly became more sympathetic, placing a firm hand on my shoulder and speaking. Look, buddy, you and that guy in there look exactly the same. I'm guessing you're twin brothers or something. Maybe this is a family dispute. I don't know. Either way, this isn't a police matter. The man inside that apartment is Paul Young, and he has the documentation to prove it. I don't know who you are, but you don't live at this address. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to escort you from this building, and that's going to be the end of it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He's the criminal, and you're asking me to leave. What the hell? I need you to calm down, sir, the officer replied firmly. I've been patient up to now, but we've reached the end of the line. You have two choices, buddy. Either you leave voluntarily, or we arrest you for trespassing on private property. Now, what's it going to be? The cops left, but I stayed on the sidewalk outside of my apartment building. I took out my phone, thinking I could call someone who could help. My parents lived in a different state, and I had friends in the city who might let me stay with them until this was sorted out. But when I tried to unlock my device, I couldn't. Facial recognition no longer worked, and it wouldn't accept my PIN number. I thought things couldn't get any worse, but in that moment, the heavens opened up, and I was soon drenched with cold rain. Hey loser, up here. I recognized the voice calling out to me, my voice. Looking upwards, I saw my double shouting down at me from my bedroom window. I hated this guy so much, but was powerless against him. Why are you doing this to me? I shouted back. I'll tell you what, Paul, why don't you come up here and I'll explain everything. How does that sound? I didn't trust the guy and knew he was likely dangerous, but the way I saw it, I had no better options. Besides, I had a final card to play that I hoped would turn the tables on the imposter. 5 minutes later, I was back at my front door, and this time my double let me inside. He was a cool customer, I'll have to give him that. The other Paul Young didn't seem to see me as a threat, but I was determined to prove him wrong. "Nice place you've got here," he said sarcastically, looking around my small one-bedroom apartment. Ignoring the insult about my home and financial status, I confronted him. "You admit that I'm Paul, and this is my home, so you lied to the cops." He shrugged dismissively before answering, "In a manner of speaking, but the truth is rather more complicated." I looked him in the eye, examining him carefully for the first time. He looked almost identical to me, but there were subtle differences. He was clean-shaven, and I had a day's worth of stubble. His hair was short and slicked back with gel, while mine was long and untidy. His mannerisms were different, too more confident, perhaps even arrogant, as he swaggered around my apartment, looking down his nose at me. My pent-up rage reached a boiling point, and I formulated a plan. "I need to get something from my bedroom," I said, carefully controlling my voice. "Is that cool?" My double's grin widened as he answered, "Oh, sure thing, Paul. You're not looking for this by any chance." He pulled a gun from his waistband and pointed it directly at my chest. Fearfully, I backed off, raising my hands in surrender. "How did you know?" I spluttered. "The safe in the back of your closet. The code is our date of birth. Seriously." "Relax, buddy," he said with a cruel smirk. "I still don't understand," I exclaimed. "Who are you?" The other Paul rolled his eyes in frustration. "Don't you get it? I'm you. An alternate version of Paul Young from another dimension. Real Twilight Zone stuff, my friend." I shook my head vigorously, refusing to believe what I was hearing. "No, that's not possible. This cannot be happening," I muttered. The other me shrugged once again before answering. "Believe me or don't. It makes no difference to me, buddy." I took a deep breath, meeting my double's gaze as I tried to make sense of this madness. "Okay, let's say I believe you," I replied nervously. "Then why are you here? And what do you want from me?" he responded. "I don't want anything from you, Paul. I'm merely here to deliver a message, to keep the chain going, so to speak. Your time in this dimension is over. And if you want to survive, you'll want to follow my instructions." Freaked out and full of questions, I asked the most obvious one without thinking. "What do you mean my time is over?" My doppelganger sighed aloud, seemingly losing patience with me. "Listen, buddy. I was in the same boat as you not so long ago. There I was, minding my own business and living my best life. Then one day, I came home to find somebody else living in my house, and guess what? He looked just like me." I raised an eyebrow in surprise before the other me responded. "Yes, that's right, Paul. I've been in the exact same position as you, and I had to follow the rules to survive and make it here. Now it's your turn, buddy." "But this is my home," I repeated angrily. "This is where I belong." "Not anymore," he replied. "Your keys don't work. Your IDs have been wiped, and you can't access your phone. Isn't that right?" I nodded my head meekly to confirm. "Well, that's just the beginning, and things will move quickly from here on in. All evidence of your existence is being erased from this universe. There can't be two Paul Youngs in the same dimension for long, you see." He paused briefly, the tone of his voice becoming more serious as he spoke his next words. "You have until midnight, buddy, then it's game over." An icy cold chill ran through my entire body as I tried to comprehend this terrifying threat to my very existence. "What happens at midnight?" I muttered fearfully. "Do I just disappear?" I saw fear enter the other me's eyes before he answered. "You'll cease to exist in this universe. After that, you go to another place. I don't know all the details, but I did get a glimpse of what awaits the versions of us who fail in their mission. And believe me, buddy, it's not good." My brain was running at 100 miles per hour at this point. I still couldn't believe that any of this was real. "But there must be a way out," I pleaded. "You survived, so I can too, right?" "Sure," he confirmed with a nod. "I'm going to help you with the ritual, just like the last guy helped me out. But you need to do your part, Paul, and it's not going to be easy." "Who's doing this to us?" I demanded. "And what the hell do they want with us?" "I don't know for certain," my double answered, "and neither did the guy before me. I guess that knowledge got lost somewhere down the line. My guess is that one version of us made a deal with some unsavory, interdimensional, demonic beings, and now we're all paying the price. As for why they're doing this, I reckon they just like messing with us little people. It's just a game to them, you see. They make the rules, and we have to follow them. That's just the way it is." I took a deep breath before I asked my next question. "Okay, so what do I have to do?" My double's eyes lowered before he answered in a grim tone of voice. "It's a blood ritual, Paul, and there's only one way to win. You've got to take 3 lives by midnight. 3 souls, that's their price." I gasped in disbelief. "You want me to murder 3 innocent people?" I exclaimed in disgust. The other me looked irritated, clenching his teeth before replying, "I don't want you to do anything. I'm merely communicating the rules of the game. It's up to you what you decide to do with this information. As for innocent, well, that's up to you too. The rules don't specify who you kill. Can't you think of 3 jerks who deserve to die?" I could, of course, thinking back to the incident earlier in the day. But I didn't believe I was capable of doing that. "I'm not a killer," I muttered while lowering my head. "Neither was I," he replied. "Not until I did the deed. You'd be surprised what we're capable of when our back's against the wall. Still, I can't tell you what to do, Paul. It's your decision, but you need to make it quickly, my friend. The clock is ticking." He carefully set the revolver down on the coffee table in front of me, and I just stared at the weapon for a long time as it slowly dawned on me that my old life was gone forever. 30 minutes later, I found myself on the bus, concealing my face with a baseball cap and scarf, while my jacket pocket cradled the trembling revolver. My double had outlined the unthinkable task before I left a triple murder on the streets, as he prepared for the ritual back at my apartment. Endless possibilities raced through my head, a million doubts and fears, but I felt cornered, knowing deep down that my existence was slipping away. The bus abruptly halted, the driver reminding me it was my stop. I sat frozen, unable to respond until prompted a second time. Shaking, I stood and made my way down the aisle, not meeting the driver's gaze as I stepped onto the sidewalk. The bus pulled away, and I turned towards the cab rank, taking a deep breath as I approached my targets. Mo, Larry, and Shemp were engrossed in crude jokes and laughter, passing around a spliff at the front of the office. They only noticed me when I was nearly upon them. Mo, the first to see, expressed surprise and irritation at my sudden appearance. For some reason, I pulled down my scarf, revealing my face. Mo's puzzlement turned to recognition, and then open mockery. "Well, well, look who's back, boys," he jeered. A wave of cruel laughter followed as the 3 stooges turned towards me. Mo's face twisted with impatience, his tone growing hostile. "Hey asshole, if you're not buying, you need to get the hell off my block. I'm not playing here." Silent, my hand in my pocket, gripping the gun, I stood firm. The hatred grew in my heart as I tried to muster the courage for the dreadful task ahead. Mo, losing patience, grabbed a baseball bat. I responded, pulling the revolver, aiming it at his head. Mo recoiled, but my trembling hand hesitated. Frustrated, Mo snarled, "You don't have the balls." Something snapped inside me. I steadied my hand and squeezed the trigger. Bang. Mo's head exploded, and his body collapsed. Larry, shocked, jumped up, eyes wide with adrenaline. I fired twice, hitting him in the chest. Shemp, quicker to react, pulled a shotgun. I dashed out as he fired, fleeing the scene. Sprinting for blocks, I stopped when I ran out of breath. The gun still in hand, my body trembled. I couldn't believe I'd killed 2 men, but I had failed my mission. My double had been clear 3 lives, or it was over. 2 killings weren't enough. Panicked, I heard police sirens approaching, realizing time was running out. On foot, I returned to the apartment, grappling with the atrocity I'd committed. Police sirens blared, responding to my killing spree. Watching the clock, realizing I had little time left, I stormed into my home, panting and sweating. My double, frantic, demanded, "Where the hell have you been?" "I'm sorry," I replied between breaths. "I ran into some problems." "Never mind that. Did you kill 3? He demanded. "Yes," I confirmed solemnly. "Good. Now let's get to work. There's not a moment to spare." I opened my eyes to find myself in the living room, where my doppelganger had rearranged the furniture. He had drawn a pentagram on the wooden floor using a Sharpie pen and surrounded it with tea light candles from my kitchen drawer. Although it seemed amateurish, I didn't have the luxury to laugh, as my double barked orders at me. "Stand in the center of the circle, and don't move outside of it for any reason," he commanded. I complied, and before he left, he placed a folded piece of paper in my top pocket. "Your copy of the incantation," he explained. "You'll need to read it on the other side." As he lit the candles and began reciting a Latin incantation, the ritual felt ridiculous. However, a surge of energy engulfed me as a wall of fire rose from the candles, forming a barrier of light around me. The ritual was interrupted by sirens and boots thumping outside my apartment. My double stopped, realizing the police were closing in. He accused me of leading them back and, in a fit of rage, shot at me. The bullets were blocked by the circle, but he ran out of ammunition just as the SWAT team burst in. In a chaotic moment, my double was shot by the SWAT commander, and I was held at gunpoint. Their bullets couldn't penetrate the circle, but the protection was incomplete, as my double hadn't finished the ritual. Panicking, I remembered the note in my pocket and found only 2 words left to speak. I uttered them, and the circle burned with new intensity. The SWAT team and my apartment faded away. I fell through a black void, screaming in terror. I landed restrained on a cold, twisted metal chair in a darkened room. The stench of decay filled the air, and tortured versions of myself hung from the walls, their bloodshot eyes filled with terror. 2 demonic entities in human forms appeared. They discussed my actions and deemed me worthy, fulfilling their part of the deal. They transported me to a new dimension, and I woke up in a suburban family home. Family photos revealed a man who looked like me, and I realized I had to continue the chain. As a car pulled into the driveway, another version of me struggled to unlock the door. I prepared for the encounter, knowing I had a job to do and a ritual to complete. The demons would be satisfied, and I would carry the terrible secret with me to my new life. I approached the door, ready to face the version of Paul Young in this universe.